All right, Dave, picture this. It's okay, hold on, I had one for this.
You okay, Max?
Um
That's all right, Max. We're doing a big, dumb episode today, and we're talking about Predator Badlands. And it's okay not to think too hard about movies sometimes.
Thank God.
Welcome to Picture This, the podcast where we examine the weekly box office and ask what do movie-going trends say about American culture.
I'm Max, a screenwriter and son of an independent movie theater who has spent his whole life in love with movies.
And I'm Dave. Over the last 10 years, I've worked for a filmmaker, an agent, and at a movie studio in movie marketing. Today's episode, we're talking about Predator Badlands, as well as the idea of the big, dumb movie. So far in this pod, we've talked mostly about a lot of important films, both artistically, culturally, serious stuff. But we haven't spent a lot of time on movies that are made just for pure entertainment. And that's something I know Max and I are super stoked about.
Yeah, I couldn't have come at a better time. I was having a little bit of, I would say, brain burnout. I know that a lot of you who are listening probably think that's impossible because I just tend to ramble and rant about anything and anything in a movie that people don't care about when they go watch movies. But hey, guess what? We're going to talk about why it's great that there is a movie in theaters and we can go and watch it.
Hell yeah, dude. And we're jumping into our section of the box office. Feels like the rest of America is feeling very similarly. The big headline is that Predator Badlands made $40 million domestically, which is a huge number for that movie.
Yeah.
It also made another $40 million internationally for a global total of $80 million in just 3 days. But $40 million is so impressive, Max, I think specifically because we were talking the week leading into this release, and people were excited for Predator to make $25 million domestically. And like we talked about tracking, Max, this was one of those examples where it just started to take off on Thursday night and Friday and Saturday. So is that what you saw?
Yeah, because you're telling me you heard 25. I had heard from a friend who's very deep in the business as well that they were expecting 30, and that seemed very exciting. And then when I opened the numbers today, I was like, oh.
If you are part of the team that made Predator Badlands, this is one of those magical movie making weekends where you worked so hard on a movie and then the weekend's coming around and last Monday you're like, I think it's going to be good, but I don't know how good. And then Wednesday you're seeing numbers that like people are really excited about it. And then on Friday, it's even better than you thought. And Saturday, it's even better. Yeah. And then coming Sunday night, this is just like a big success story for Dan Trachtenberg, the writer, director, and everyone that was part of it. I know we're going to dive in a lot deeper into Predator in a second, but let's just talk about what else was going on in the box office, Max.
Yeah, any other like big highlights, Dave, that you want to point out here? What do we got?
I'm staring at the top 10 list right now. I'll just highlight Regretting You, which was that romantic comedy that we had mentioned on our last pod. Didn't have great reviews, but it was from, Max, you had mentioned like a Colleen Hoover novel, and she's got a lot of clout in the book world and the book talk world. That is made cumulatively about $40 million, which is a nice little tidy sum of money for a movie with such a low budget.
Another 40 worldwide, right?
Dude, I think so. I mean, which is also impressive because rom-coms tend not to travel internationally very well.
You look at this type of movie and you're like, oh my God, thank goodness that we've gotten away from IP. And it's just like, nah, man, this is based on a book. Like the power of IP, like translates all genres. And I think there's a cool lesson to be learned there.
This movie Nuremberg that Max and I were talking just about before the pod was a release by Sony Pictures Classics. This was still in about 1,800 theaters, not the typical 4,000 theaters that we normally see for a movie like Predator. And it made $4 million. And I think Max saw that number and was like, that's so low. And I saw that number and I was like, that's pretty good. So I don't totally know what the comp is for it right now.
I didn't know this movie was coming out until I walked past showtimes for it in the movie theater on my way to Predator today. So like, no shade at it making only $4 million, whatever that means. But I'm just like, why did no one tell us this movie was coming out? It's actually getting pretty good reviews, and it's about some pretty serious subject matters.
Totally. Has Russell Crowe in it, has a couple other young stars.
We got Rami Malek in there. You got Freddie Mercury in there. That's a pretty good name.
Yeah, Oscar award winning Rami Malek, which actually, don't get me started on that. That makes my eyes roll. But and World War II, which is a bankable subject matter typically. So I think $4 million is like not bad. Again, so Sony Pictures Classics isn't one to throw a lot of money into their marketing. So I think that you oftentimes don't see huge numbers from them. Now, 6 through 10 or so, you're looking at Begonia made about $3 million this weekend. Die My Love, which is the Jennifer Lawrence, Robert Pattinson movie, made about $3 million, just a shade under, which was a more serious drama from a very talented but less commercial filmmaker, Lynn Ramsey. The Bruce Springsteen movie, Deliver Us from Nowhere, made about $3 million, $2 million for a total of $20 million. That's also a little disappointing. And this movie, Christie, the Sydney Sweeney boxing movie, came in at a pretty disappointing $1.5-ish million for the first weekend. So that's a quick rattle off of the box office, Max. But I think overall, that fall window, the window that we're pretty passionate about, where we tend to see more serious subject matter, more adult themes, sometimes more challenging materials. They haven't been making great money in the box office this last 6 weeks, and it's got a lot of people in Hollywood like scratching their heads.
Yeah, I wonder, like, particularly with these biopics, there's been some criticism online floating around that when you make a biopic on a musician, the musician's so involved that like maybe they're too close to the material and it makes the material not edgy, or it like softens the edges, it makes it not interesting. If that's playing into it, but yeah, like the Springsteen pick is not seeming to have the legs like other biopics. Smash Machine didn't see any pickup there. None of these movies are really generating word of mouth. Begonia also not seeming to really find a strong audience either way. I was blown away because, Dave, we talked in the last episode that Yorgos, one of his superpowers was keeping his budgets low. I saw that the budget numbers coming for Begonia, somewhere between $40 and $55 million. And all I can think was, how is this possible?
Yeah,
like we talked a little bit about the end of that movie. Did they really like how much money was making that alien ship at the end of that movie?
Yeah, most of the movie was shot in his basement. It was a real actor versus actor movie, and we loved the structure of that. The only thought that I have that could easily bump that budget up is that what you and I both were talking about last time of Emma Stone taking a pay cut in order to make movies. Maybe she's not doing that anymore. Maybe she did that on The Favorite, which was in 2018, the first time she worked with this auteur filmmaker. Maybe now she's like, I'm cashing some checks. I'll do some auteur stuff, but I want to get paid for it.
This pair is really hot, and so they just demanded more money. But if Poor Things had a $55 million budget, it wouldn't have been seen as the same success as it was.
Max, do you have any initial thoughts? Because we talked at length about One Battle After Another, another movie that we both loved, took on some really like deep themes, looked at what America meant, and obviously the people involved were very like artistically motivated. But we all know that Leo DiCaprio got paid on that movie. And that is another movie that we're looking at the box office. I think it's just about to cross 200 million. And most people can say what, Max, you said right out of the gate unequivocally, which is like, at this point, it is not making money. Do you have...
there are hot arguments on the Reddit subreddit box office, which are just about how much money is this movie going to lose? And it seems pretty significant. I'm going to continue to advocate that, like, the business, if you want to make movies like that, everybody's got to take a Tom Brady salary cut.
No. Yeah.
I don't know. Hearing Begonia's numbers just made me want to go, movie budgets don't make any sense movie to movie, and who knows why things cost so much, and none of it ever makes any sense. That's essentially my conclusion from that whole thing. Both of those movies I think turned out really good, but you know, I do wonder, like, in the great thought experiment, if somebody gave me a movie studio and I was allowed to make movies the way that I wanted to make them, if I did an NBA salary cap and was just like, I don't care how famous you are, I don't care what kind of director you are, what kind of success you have a salary cap of a certain amount of money, let's say like $1 million. But what you can negotiate are box office bonuses and share of gross profits. You get $10 million if this movie opens up at like $50 million box office. If it opens up at 15, You don't get that $10 million because your star power was not strong enough. And when the movie crosses over $75 million, all of the actors and the director, they each get $1 million bonus. When
Yep.
it crosses $100 million, they get a certain bonus. When it does certain numbers internationally, they get a certain bonus. And I wonder if you structured movies like that, it would just make the movie business as a whole more profitable. And I wonder what the downstream effects of something like that would be.
I think that risk and betting on yourself model, I think, is also really taken a hit in the last 15, 20 years because of streaming. And they have been building a model that eliminates that risk altogether. And that's the only reason a lot of people started to want to work with those streamers, is that the model that you proposed of percentages and more money in success at the theatrical studios had been the model for a while. And then Netflix would just say, forget this risk factor. We'll just pay you all that money up front. And that's why they got all these stars to start working for them. And I think, Max, that's that's an interesting snapshot of where we are in the fall. Again, we're recording this on Sunday, November 9th, the weekend coming out of this Predator movie. But we're nearly through our fall preview list of films. And I think, Max, teasing ahead, I think we're going to review our list of most anticipated films cumulatively in a future episode. But I think the headline is that a lot of these fall movies are feeling more disappointing in the box office than I think we might have hoped, after what I think has been a really strong year overall. Just the last couple of weeks have been tough, except ... the main event of this episode, which is Predator fucking Badlands, which greatly overperformed. We're going to talk about it. But first, before we got into the film, I wanted to preface what a big dumb movie is.
My favorite thing that we have to actually apply definitions for. Big dumb movie.
So Max and I, we've been talking about this for a couple of weeks now, because we've been so passionate about the start of this podcast, and a lot of the movies that we've been focusing on have had these like real artistic and thematic pulls to them. And we've had this, I think overall, this has been a great year for nerd cinephiles like us and the really awesome auteur filmmakers saying interesting things about our culture and what it is to be an artist, what it is to be American, what it is to be human, all these big, weighty themes that Max and we will talk about at length. But you guys have been listening, have been missing a big part of what Max and I love, which are these big, dumb movies. And we had to clarify what we're talking about, because I hope people don't hear big dumb movies and think of it as a derogatory term.
Yeah. The word like dumb specifically, we don't want people to interpret as unworthy or anything like that, but more like just not asking a whole lot.
We decided to put some sort of criteria of what it is to be a big dumb movie. And I think we realized it's in the name. So I think the first criteria to be a big dumb movie is the dumb part, which means.
So Dave, give us the definition of dumb for big dumb movie here.
Yes. The first criteria is the dumb part, which is a simple premise that is easily understood. And that premise could be as small as a bank heist, or it could be as big as saving the galaxy. But It has to not be complicated. Max and I love on this podcast, we love the word nuance, and we've said it a lot over the course of these episodes of movies that have complicated characters and a nuance to a tone or a genre. A big dumb movie tends to not have a lot of nuance. And I think we all think that that's okay for these movies. Is that all right?
Even beyond concept, I think that the theme itself has to be simple. And to pull the example of examples of big dumb movies, you look at the Fast and the Furious franchise.
Yeah.
And like the big appeal for that franchise and the big reason why it's so successful is it's always about family. It's literally like, how could you get any dumber than one word? It's like, that doesn't mean ineffective. It's just unnuanced.
And Max, because you're a writer, I think I'm going to ask this specifically to you, which is, normally badly written dialogue, like it sticks out in a movie, especially if you're seeing something that's like trying to be an Oscar movie or something outside of big dumb movie. But I would propose, and I would ask this question to you, is like, can you have bad dialogue in a good big dumb movie? Is that allowed?
Yeah, for sure. I actually think the importance of like bad or good dialogue. When a lot of people talk about that, what they really mean is like realistic versus unrealistic.
Yeah.
And I think realistic dialogue is not a criteria for even a nuanced, sophisticated movie. Nevertheless, like a fucking big dumb one. Like I think the
Yeah.
all dialogue needs to do is fit the tone of the movie. And it's more if you can match tone and you have people telling you exactly what's going on or having a big emotional reaction to something, but it's consistent and
Mhm.
it's on purpose, then it's effective and it's fun.
Yes, I phrased the question incorrectly because there is no such thing as good or bad dialogue, Max. You're totally right. It's just, does it fit the situation that it's in? But I agree. I think in a big dumb movie, you can have quite literal dialogue and not realistic dialogue. That's criteria number one for a big dumb movie is the dumb part, which really means just simple premise, easily understood. Number two is it's big. So we're really
Yes.
really going by the book here, which is within this simple premise, this simple structure of dumb, there is something spectacular within this structure of the movie. And it could be a car chase, it could be a world exploding, it could be just a really tense moment. Most of these movies are not just people in rooms talking. There needs to be
Right.
an element of spectacle to it.
Yeah, I think that's the key word is spectacle, right? And the Hollywood term that we would use for this is it needs a couple of big set pieces,
Mm-hmm.
a big car chase sequence, a battle scene or something
Mm-hmm.
like that.
Yeah.
A heist is also like a great big set piece, like the heist at the end of Ocean's 11. Like Ocean's 11 is like a perfect big dumb movie. They don't all have to be filled with like explosions.
Okay, and then criteria number three, and now you guys are getting the structure of this little tutorial. We got the dumb, we got the big, and then the final one is it's a movie. And I know that sounds silly,
Yes.
but it is very clearly a movie and not a film. I love films. Like films are a bit more artistically driven. I think the main word that I think of the difference between a movie versus a film is that movies don't have any pretension.
Yeah.
And hell, Max, like I like pretension oftentimes in a movie. So like, we love our films and we talked about a lot of our films on this podcast. But I think in this criteria, no one can be assuming that they're saving the world with the making of this film.
I would say, a movie is business and a film is art. And a lot of times they can be both. There are certain films that are made with absolutely no intention of having any commercial success at all. And they're all made about exploring the craft or exploring the emotion or whatever it is that is most important to the artist of that. And if money comes out of it, cool, maybe. Movies are made with the sole intent of making money and being a product that you buy and a product that you enjoy. Can they be artful? Absolutely. Is that the number one priority? Absolutely not.
Yeah, and maybe it is a degree thing of like people making a big dumb movie probably want a little bit of art in it, and people thinking they're making a capital F film, I'm sure have some hope to make a little bit of money off of it. But I think this three criteria and what we said does lead us pretty nicely and cleanly into us talking about Predator Badlands. Predator Badlands was on our most anticipated fall previews at the time, but I think it was an unusual thing to put on this list. And I think an unusual time to maybe see something like a big dumb movie in the middle of a fall release schedule. Max, you said it earlier. I don't think it could have come at a better time. Before we get deep into the spoilers of it, should we first give our 10-word log lines?
Just 10-word logline time.
All right, 10-word logline time. My 10-word logline is even, psychotic, deadly, emotionally unavailable killer aliens need family.
There you go. It is family. That's a little more accurate than mine, but mine is fiercest warrior in the galaxy says, "Take that, Dad."
This is the best game. I love this. This is
the best game. Let's give maybe a more reasonable summary to our listeners here, Dave.
Yeah, sure. Let's let me give a proper rundown of it. A young predator, outcast from his clan, finds an unlikely ally on his journey in search of the ultimate adversary. Even that is a little, I feel like is accurate. It's a little opaque, but the log line that I gleaned from the marketing was just like the baddest bad guy in all of the galaxy gets dropped on a deadly planet to go kill some shit.
Can it survive the deadliest planet was kind of how I understood it through the marketing. And that was kind of accurate, kind of inaccurate.
Yeah, can't wait to dive into more than that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So real quick on the auspices, directed by this guy, Dan Trachtenberg, written by Dan and Patrick Eisen. Dan and Patrick had also written the 2022 movie Prey, which is also in the Predator lineage. You can
Have you seen
say,
Prey, Dave?
I sure have. I sure had it. It was a COVID
That
movie.
movie's so good.
So good. Dan, we can talk about it a little bit more, but he directed a movie called 10 Cloverfield Lane for Paramount several years ago. That was a real contained thriller and played with genre. And I will also mention, before all of this, Dan had a podcast. So Max, there's hope for you and I. Yeah. Dan had a podcast from I think the 2010s. Anyway, back to this movie. This is based on characters from the original movie in 1987 from Jim Thomas. This is, I want to say, the 8th or 9th Predator movie. Part of what qualifies it to be a big dumb movie is that you don't need to know all about the other 8 or 9 Predator movies to enjoy this one.
No, and it's, I think one of the greatest strengths about this movie is that you don't need to, but they actually expand the mythology in a really low key but well executed way. They expand the universe without destroying anything.
I agree. Quickly, the titular character was played by a man named Demetrius Schuster Kolomatangi. I think I might be butchering his name. I apologize, but plays a very physical, domineering, athletic predator and does an incredible job. There was a lot of prosthetics and some visual effects used to create some of the facial expressions, but a lot of that obviously starts with Demetrius's, his own performance, which is really impressive.
Dude, that was like the thing that I also just couldn't stop thinking about the whole movie. Usually in the Alien and Predator movies, there is somebody in a suit at some point, but for most of the movie, it's like animatronics or creature effects or CGI. And I was watching this thing and I was like, no, that's definitely a guy in a suit for like this whole movie. And it looks pretty damn good. But also, how did they do that? I have no answers to that question, but I thought that was one of the cooler parts of watching it.
Absolutely. And then I will just say probably the biggest star of the film is Elle Fanning, who plays a real interesting role, frankly, a real interesting couple of roles. She's both fearsome, but also a bit of comic relief throughout this film. So that's the general backdrop of it. I think real quick before we go into spoilers, Max, what did you see in the marketing? And then what did you think of the film?
Okay, so marketing was, for me, my social media algorithms are, well, they're improving now that we're doing this podcast as far as like people telling me that movies exist, but my algorithm is, it's like all politics, which is probably why I have bad anxiety. But yeah, I saw the trailer a lot. And I think I first saw it actually on YouTube. I did not see anything particularly creative or non-traditional in the marketing of this film. And I don't know if they needed to. This was a movie utilizing IP that is very well known and very beloved, despite a lot of misfires in its past. But after the success of Prey, like a straight to Hulu movie that was really, really beloved. And arguably in both the Alien and Predator franchises, anywhere between the 3rd and 5th best movie in all of that. And people were so like, I can't believe you didn't put this in theaters. It would have been so cool to see Prey in theaters. But that by the time we're like, oh yeah, well, we're giving him another Predator movie and you could see that one in theaters. We're all like, yeah, that's right. And we're going to see it in theaters. And that, or at least that's what my experience was. Did you see anything beyond that in the marketing, Dave? Or
no, I'm with you, Max. I think this was it felt like a pretty traditional campaign. Maybe it's because the core demo for this is older males, that they were a little lighter on social media and they stuck to kind of traditional television advertising. I saw it a lot on sports, and we live in Los Angeles, so we saw a lot of outdoor billboards leaning into this Predator figure, who before this movie was always the villain, or at least at best an anti-hero. But oftentimes just like the
an antagonistic force.
Yeah.
As much as like a monster movie can have a villain.
Absolutely. And so seeing that creature attacking another alien creature on a giant billboard. And to your point, the marketing felt very clean, which was as simple of an idea as possible. It's just like, here's this badass alien hunter being, and it's going onto a planet where it has to hunt and kill some other terrifying alien elements. And that very simple premise didn't evolve that much over the course of the campaign. There wasn't a lot of other things to talk about. And still, I was like, yep, I'm buying tickets to that.
I mean, big dumb marketing campaign for a big dumb movie, right?
Yeah, I agree. Okay, before we get into spoilers, what'd you think?
Okay, so I would tell anybody to go see this movie in theaters. It's a movie theater movie. It is spectacle. It's big and dumb. It's worth seeing in theaters. That said, at the end of the day, I thought it was good. I did not think it was great. But go see good movies in theaters.
Yeah.
This is not like I'll wait for that at home type of movie. Not that Dave or I think that any movie is
Everyone.
that movie, but
Yeah.
My critiques would say that the rated R parts of this movie were great. The PG-13 parts of this movie were not so great. And I'm very curious as to the choices that went into this film, what was originated from Dan and his co-writer, what was originated from studio executives, like on high about the Predator as a franchise as a whole, and about, I don't know, selling toys or whatever else they're going to try and do with this. This isn't a huge spoiler, but there's definitely like the hope that there would be a sequel to this movie for sure.
Yeah.
My other two thoughts are the Elle Fanning character did not get off to a good start when we first meet her. I was on board with her in the trailer, but you shouldn't say a lot in the trailer. We just find out that she's a synthetic from the Weyland-Yutani Corporation, which for those people who aren't super familiar with the Alien movies, the Weyland-Yutani Corporation is essentially the bad guy in all of the Alien films. It's like this big corporate entity, and they have androids that are called synthetics that are essentially always betraying the human characters in their time of need in the Alien films, and sometimes coming to their aid. It's cool. It's actually one of the cooler part about the Alien movies. But the fact that they planted that in the trailer, I was like, oh, cool. They're merging Alien and Predator in a way that's not too obtrusive. Like the other Alien vs. Predator movies are so bad. Like so bad. But anyhow, I thought when we met her, it really didn't work. There were times where she felt like Jubilee from the 1990s X-Men cartoon.
Oh, nice pull.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a deep cut. That's my reference for like, hey, we need to connect with the kids these days. Like, why don't you put in like a youthful character? That 30 Rock meme, the Steve Buscemi, hello, fellow
kids. Yeah.
It's meant to be very charming because she's annoying the Predator. It wasn't charming. It just kind of felt annoying. That said, as the film progressed and their relationship developed, she ended up growing on me, and I did end up liking the character. And I also thought it was interesting with like the multiple characters that this character ended up being, because it's a synthetic, right? So we have different versions of this robot essentially in the movie. I thought that was pretty cool. So all of that's to say, I actually didn't think this was much of a Predator film, because Predator films are centered around a human antagonist that is being hunted. And what's really affected about them is it taps into this fear of like, what if we're not at the top of the food chain anymore? What does that feel like? That's what provides like tension and resonates in those films. This movie, there was a Predator protagonist fighting the Weyland-Yutani Corporation, which is a lot more like an Alien movie. And this is not a negative. Again, I think it's a really good movie, but I would say it feels more like the best Alien versus Predator movie than it does the Predator franchise. I was having that feeling while I was watching it, but my friend Andrew actually articulated it, so give credit to him. But yeah, those are my thoughts.
Yeah, we should just jump right into spoilers. I will just say also, like Max, go see this movie. I too really enjoyed it. I think maybe even the way you described it, Max, maybe a little bit more than you, though I think I totally agree with all of your notes. And I think what we had mentioned about the marketing that I will touch back on again, and we'll touch a little bit later on, is I think it was the Dave Weaver special of just like the movie that was sold to audiences was not the movie that you got, but I think they knew the movie well enough to deliver what you were sold. A badass predator on a dangerous alien planet killing some crap. I think also just because of the time of the release and the fact that like we have maybe a little bit of like film fatigue, capital F
cinema.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like this is the best example of a Dave Weaver special that we've had on this, because it's not that it misled us a little bit. I actually think it delivered the exact movie it advertised for us and more.
I agree. Either it was a happy accident, or I like to think that these people in the marketing side were talking to all the people in the production and development side, because right out the gate, you get action sequences with the Predator. You get the setup. Essentially, this Predator named Deck starts on his home planet, and he's the runt of his own clan.
Well, you can't be fully part of the clan until you earn, I forget what they call it, your predatorness. What you have to do is you have to be sent off to a foreign planet to kill one of the most powerful creatures on that planet. You bring back a trophy, which is usually just a skull of that animal. And then once you bring that skull back, you are officially, it's like a coming of age thing. It's a ritualistic thing. And we start off and like we're being told by, you know, the movie that this guy he's probably not going to be a trophy bringer.
Yeah. So all that Max described is like pretty much takes place in the first 15 minutes. And me as an audience member, and again, I like to think I'm a pretty smart when it comes to movie stuff. I'm like, okay, I get the plot of the film. And it is what was marketed is like he's getting thrust to this planet. He's alone. He's gonna face a lot of dangerous other animals.
Yeah, I mean, he goes there to kill like the unkillable thing that even his dad couldn't kill. And it's actually like, I think one of the strongest parts about the movie is he's like, I'm going to show you, which is like, we've all been that person at some point in our lives. And, and what's great, which I think you're about to get at here, Dave, is that the first thing that happens when he gets there is like, we're watching him and we're like, hey, you're not going to show anybody, dude.
Yeah. He gets his ass kicked pretty much 5 minutes into
he gets all of his weapons stolen.
Yeah. But I think to your detractions of the movie, the best way I could say it is that the middle part of it, especially, suddenly ends up feeling very Amblin-y. Feels very, all of a sudden, very Spielberg-y, and very honestly, like pretty conventional when it comes to action movies. He starts to get humanized. He meets other characters, including Elle Fanning. He meets other animals on this planet that he kind of reluctantly befriends. And before you know it, he's got this like makeshift family and crew going off to kill this ultimate animal on the planet that will finally justify to his father what a badass he is. On paper, that is a really familiar hero's journey. And that was not at all sold in the marketing. And I think a lot of that worked for me, Max. There were some things that felt a little, I think to what you alluded to earlier, like a little like, oh, they want to sell a toy of this character.
But like, that was literally what I was thinking about it. And as much as I want to be like, that's cheesy, that sucks, that's stupid, I thought most of it actually like worked.
Yeah. I agree. And I think that is, we often do this, Max. Like, I think you got to give the credit to the director who we think is really talented. It could have been really cheesy in a lot of different ways.
I will say, like, as much as it worked within the contained universe of this movie, it's so clear that they had a conversation where they were like, look, the main characters in this movie is a predator, which is not a human, a synthetic, which is not a human, and this other little creature, which is not a human. And like, I could just hear the whole movie, them just being like, well, how do we humanize them? And how do we humanize them? And how do we humanize them? And I think the things that didn't work were born out of that conversation. Because the thing is, like, predators, I think, are actually inherently very humanoid. The culture that they've built up around them, it's tribal, the rite of passage, being this act of violence, the collection of trophies, you know, like even if you look at the design of predators, the way they wear masks, like all this ritual that is attached to the predator race that's all human behavior.
It's true.
There's not a lot of animals that have ritual like that, you know? So it's already a human thing. I don't need him to be like, well, golly shucks, maybe I do need to learn how to work with a team instead of working by myself. It was a little bit like, ugh.
Yeah, I think, and to your point, the history and lineage of the predator species, that all that stuff that you mentioned in the parallels to human nature, that is also really emphasized in the last movie that Dan Trachtenberg directed, Prey, where, spoilers for that movie, but there's a commingling of the predator culture on Earth with a Native American, just a tribe, and them deciding to focus on, you know, a human species that also championed hunting as the predator culture did. But for this, I think I'm with you, Max, of you just not liking Elle's introduction. I wonder, like, to your point, like if it was needed, but this is clearly a success. This movie is
Yeah.
overperformed just in the first 3 days and is getting good
Yeah.
reviews.
Great audience response and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So,
And before you meet Elle Fanning, which I want to say is maybe like 25 minutes into the film, this movie is as inaccessible as you can say for a modern American audience, which is it's
yeah.
all subtitles in a language that doesn't exist. Your main character, he's a predator, so he's a hunter and kind of an asshole. And he's been shit on by his own father, who was an asshole to him, and even his brother, who's maybe the most sympathetic of it, gets killed within the first 4 or 5 minutes of it. So like
Right.
there's no 25 minutes in, the only saving grace, at least for me as an old dude moviegoer that likes these movies, is like they deliver on the action, which was what was promised in the marketing. Thanks, because again, we're talking about a big dumb movie. So great
Mm-hmm.
action set pieces. Our main predator, Deck, meets the animal that he thinks he's meant to slay, and he ends up frankly not being able to do it because the thing can reanimate himself. And the third act is not a showdown between the predator and one big bad alien, which is what you think is going to happen in the marketing, and instead it ends up being, you know, the predator versus this evil corporation.
Yeah, I thought it was that was really cool execution.
I did like there's an Elle Fanning fight sequence where Elle Fanning literally has two different parts of her body kicking butt to other synthetics, which I thought was both played kind of comically and really entertaining. I thought it was great.
I had a nitpicky problem with that, but also there's also part of it that I loved because when I was in high school, somebody bought a 20 movie box set of old kung fu movies for
Yeah.
me for like $5 in the bargain bin somewhere. They were just like really bad kung fu movies. And one of those was this movie called The Legends of the Crippled Masters, where these bad guys rolled through town and they cut off one guy's arms and they cut off another guy's legs. And they're both down on their luck. They feel like they got nothing going for them, but then they meet each other and they realized with your legs and with my arms, we could go back to town and defeat these guys. And there are amazing fight sequences of two legitimate amputees doing kung fu and just beating people up. It's called Legends of the Crippled Masters. And when I saw that, and I was like, I think Dan Trachtenberg has seen this movie because it really feels like calling out to that. On the one hand, I'm like, this is kind of cool, and it's kind of a cool homage. And on the other hand, I was like, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me that the synthetics that are specifically built and designed for security purposes are getting their asses absolutely handed to them by a synthetic that was specifically designed to
be a friend,
research and be emotional and be your friend. And I was like, that doesn't track, but like, whatever. This is fun and it's fine.
I'm so grateful that Dan Trachtenberg is passionate about it because he's done already with Prey. He in 2022 he approached it from a really interesting and new place, and then he did it again in 2025 with this film.
Yeah,
so
yeah, he I think has done a very good service to this franchise, and like you said, Dave, it sounds like it very much comes out of a place where he clearly cares about it. He was probably a fan.
Okay, Max, now that we've unpacked it, do you think this is a big dumb movie? Or my hot take is that like, is this almost too smart to be considered a big dumb movie? Because it was marketed as a very simple film. But then, of course, it does get more complex than I thought it was going to get. But I guess I would throw out like, is it almost too clever for being a big dumb movie? No.
Not in my opinion. I think it had some lofty ambitions and it did not land, but it also didn't crash.
Yeah.
So, this starts off, I thought, like that opening sequence where his dad kills his brother and then his brother sends him off to go, earn his place in the clan. I thought that was a really great setup for this movie to be about coming of age and legacy virus, the burden of trying to fulfill the demands of a parent with a lot of high expectations, the guilt that you carry around from your brother. And then the Elle Fanning character literally calls it out at one point. She literally says, "Oh, you're grieving.
Mm-hmm.
You're grieving."
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, so is this movie going to be about grief? Oh, is this movie going to be about found family, how the predator walks away from his clan to go do this, this, and this? And Um, none of those really are followed through upon. Like,
Mm-hmm.
particularly not the grief.
Yeah. So it's dumb enough.
It's dumb to me, yeah, but it had ideas,
Yeah.
which I appreciate. But I think overall the it's still a simple enough spectacle to be considered a big dumb movie.
Great. Yeah. So my hot take for this movie is this is a marketing masterclass. This whole
Mm,
thing is, and including the distribution, which is technically part of the marketing. We talk about finding a date to put a movie. You and I and many moviegoers are just fatigued by some of the heavier themes of the year. We've had Sinners and we've had Weapons and we've had One Battle After Another. We've had Eddington. We've had a lot of like, what does this mean for America? And this is maybe the question for our podcast, Max. We love this question.
yeah,
And it does
yeah,
feel like we have just been inundated with that, and picking a date in this window, knowing that no one's really let it fucking rip in a while. So
yeah.
bam, we're putting it on November 7th. So that's the distribution, but the marketing and the stuff that Max, you and I saw, the clean message is so easy to overlook. And I think
hmm
it requires, and I've been in those rooms, and it requires, I think, two things. It requires a lot of confidence and a lot of discipline, because everything we've just talked about in the spoiler section, I know there are people in the marketing rooms that were at Fox and Disney that were like, dude, we could show an alien creature that regenerates. We could show multiple Elle Fannings. We could show
mm,
more of the Wayland Yutani crossover amalgamation, whatever. Like, these are all things that I have been in like marketing docs and like, what are the pillars of our movie campaign? And someone very smart was like, screw all that. We're just going to keep it really freaking simple and have it be a predator going on the deadliest planet, and people will show up for it. And I've been in those rooms where like your skin crawls because you have so many other tools that you could put in a 30-second spot or put in a trailer. And ultimately they were very smart to know that like, nope, this is a clean message, and we're confident that people will show up to see it and have the discipline to not deviate from that theme. I think that this is a type of campaign that will like kind of not, everyone will talk about Sinners this year and One Battle After Another. Also incredible movie campaigns, but this is also like a really interesting, I think an effective like delivery of popcorn movie marketing.
A strong argument for the status quo, right, Dave?
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
totally.
I work with a couple of writers on Last Man on Earth who got their start in marketing, and this one guy used to tell a story of working at this marketing firm. It was like during the 90s where people got really experimental with marketing, and this old marketing executive was like, can't we just tell them what it is and they can buy the product? Can't we just say what it is? And like this is what it is. They're like, this is a Predator movie. And we're like, okay.
Yeah, we're
But
game.
there were like a couple of really great appetizers in there, right? You see the synthetic and you see the Wayland Yutani logo,
Yeah,
but there's no conversation about it. There's no dialogue about it. I don't think there was any dialogue between the Predator and anyone else in the trailer. You
yeah.
do see the Predator fight another Predator for like a brief moment. And it makes me go, oh my God, what are the synthetics doing here? Oh my God, when is he going to fight the other Predators? And then the movie itself is, do you want to see the deadliest warrior in the galaxy go to the deadliest planet in the galaxy? And I'm like, yes.
Sign me up.
The other thing, going off of what you were saying about how like the central question of movies this year has been a lot about like, what is America? What does it mean to be American? And this movie was like, what's in America?
It's like,
what is a human? Humans are not in this movie. We are not on their planet. And so there is something so refreshing about it coming when it came in this year to be like, yay, don't worry about all that stuff. We're, come watch this Predator, just go rip shit up.
Agreed.
Yeah.
It was escapism, not self-evaluation. And I for one, and I believe Max, you're like this too. I love to self-analyze, psychoanalyze. Part of the reason this podcast, we like to try to understand what is going on in America's soul and heart and all that. But we forget that a lot of movies originally in the Nickelodeon phase of the movie business 100 years ago was like people just wanted to escape. People just wanted to
Yeah.
like not think about their lives. And I think I can fall victim to it sometimes when I talk about movies and what I want to go see. It's such a joyful thing to go into a movie theater and not have to self-evaluate. Either extreme is, I think, really dangerous, but I think this to the dating of this movie, this hit a really great time of like, this is a release for people. They don't have to think too hard about it. And yet it still was, I think, cleverly structured enough to surprise and delight, even with a really simple premise.
Yeah. I think it also got a little lucky because I think it still would have done well. I don't know if it would have changed the numbers at all, but you and I, when we started our fall preview episode, we were really excited. We thought we were going to see a lot of good movies. And there was like this highfalutin promise of like quality in the fall. And the fall ended up being kind of more like medium falutin, like medium low falutin. So it's kind of like there's something about the expectations of those movies were not met. And then this movie set expectations and actually exceeded them, even if it's only by like an inch or two. And people are just, I think, responding overly positive to that because of everything that's come over the past few weeks or 2 months. It lucked out a little bit by hitting, in contrast to everything else that's been in theaters and in contrast to the other movie going experiences. It's now, I could talk about it being better than I thought it was. I can talk about there being more Weyland-Yutani stuff in it than I thought there was in the trailer. I could talk about Predator fights. So there's a lot of chatter to be generated out of the movie going experience that we'll see how it carries into the second weekend. It's going to be very interesting, especially with Running Man coming out right after this.
And actually, one other thing to Max to mention about luck, which is you're totally right. And I had even forgotten this, but another movie that was slated to actually come out on Halloween Friday, Mortal Kombat, was supposed to come out in that window, and they pushed that movie. Shit. And I would be curious, which that Mortal Kombat, also an IP-driven, hard R-rated, very violent, very gory, also kind of mystical, magical. And I wonder if that movie came out, if that would have satiated part of the American audience a bit. And maybe this would have done okay, but I don't think it would have done quite as well. So that movie got pushed off the books. Very lucky for the Fox team and the Predator Badlands team. Yeah, I wonder if that would have affected it too.
I'll say this. It's an interesting thing to bring up because as far as movies go, the Mortal Kombat franchise is not the Predator franchise.
Yeah.
And the Predator franchise has some pretty big stinkers in it.
Yeah.
And evidently, like, the streaming numbers on the last Mortal Kombat movie were really good, but it was fucking awful, and it was like universally hated.
Yep.
So the release of that film is a big uphill battle. However, I think the real answer to your question is going to come with how does the Running Man perform?
Mm-hmm.
Because if Running Man overperforms next weekend, I think they're going to have Predator to thank for that. And if it underperforms next weekend, there could be maybe like, I saw my action movie last week. I didn't need to go this week assigned to that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be hard to say. But if people are riding high on an action movie going experience, they might be like, I'll check out Running Man. That was also a property from the 1980s that I really like. I don't know.
Starring Arnold Schwarzenegger as well.
Yeah, both of them. Yeah, interesting.
Well, I'm glad we're a little past midpoint through the fall release, and I'm glad we're talking about a fun one. And I'm so glad we got to acknowledge Big Dumb Movies, which it won't be the last time we talk about them. All right, Max. So then, what are you excited about seeing?
I know I said this in the last episode, but I have a ticket to go see Good Fortune on Monday, and I'm very excited to go see that. Dave, you mentioned to me that you saw Sentimental Value, and I'm going to have to try and get my butt out to go see that too. I'm going to hit up my buddy who I saw Worst Person in the World with, and maybe we could set a time I could go see it with her. How about you? What are you eyeing this week?
Sounds like a great dance card for you. Yeah, I think Running Man, man. I think I'm gonna stay on the action train, and I will report back. And it'll be interesting to see if Glenn Powell will out muster a fictitious alien creature in their opening weekend. We'll see. Yeah,
he's coming off. He's got that show, the Chad Powers show on TV, which I think has gotten positive reviews. So
nice.
We'll see how it does for him.
Yeah, they're trying to make him a movie star. I think we might be talking about that later this month about like, what is he a movie star? What is a movie star nowadays too? So
I think that's the question that we got to figure out. But we'll see, man. We'll see. But the only way to find out,
see you at the movies.
I have to see you at the movies, dude.